not really questions, but they're all gathered together. It's about Nitzer Ebb who's back, about Industrial Complex, something about remixes, something about instruments, and about your songs. So, alright, ready?
Yes.
Okay. I think the first question for Douglas. We always get to read that at the time you were recording and performing with Terence Fixmer, the feeling grew stronger to call Bun for a Nitzer Ebb reunion. Fortunately for all us, the Ebb heads, it turned out well. We got the Ebb back. Do you actually believe that it would have happened if it weren't for the Fixmer-McCarthy collaboration?
I think it definitely accelerated any thought process of doing that again. At the time that Terence contacted me, I wasn't doing music at all. I mean, apart from privately at home, and I was pretty ensconced in film in London. So it kind of felt that my career in music was behind me.
But you're back.
Yeah.
Now, in all, at the moment there is a serious 80s revival going on. Being a part of the 80s for Nitzer Ebb. A lot of bands from that era are doing reunion tours to cash in. Not offensive. Often they do just one CD, like Soft Cell for instance, and they lay their act down. Can we hope that this is not the case for Nitzer Ebb? So can we expect more to come, more CDs? Any plans to reveal yet, or?
Yeah, there's no concrete plans, but you know, initially when we did the reunion tour, it was going to be very short, and it was just a sort of way to come back, say hello and goodbye. But you know, it worked so well. Once we got to that point where we decided to carry on past that, then it was definitely, you know, we were thinking about it as a long-term thing and just to keep it going. And we still feel that way, you know, it's getting harder and harder to figure out how to do things in the industry now and how to make enough money to justify the work that it takes to produce the music. But, you know, that's part of being flexible and that's part of the challenge of it. So, you know, as long as we're able to make space to do it and it's feasible to do it, then you know, we want to carry on. So we haven't got any plans to just smash and grab and go away again. You know, it's definitely an open-ended proposition.
Okay, cool. Many bands see you as their biggest example. And they love to continue making songs holding the typical aggression around that total age and belief period. Do you have any feel with that very small current scene that takes you as an example?
Well, we've been asked this several times on this tour, how we feel about it, and I think, you know, a lot of bands, and indeed a lot of creative artists, they normally have something that sparks their imagination, either positively or negatively. You know, they are for something or against something, so that's fine. Anything that makes someone get up and be creative has to be a good thing. And eventually those bands will have to accept the same challenges that we did, you know, where it's like, okay, maybe you get one record for free, if you like, where you can really draw heavily on your influences, and then after that you have to start finding your own voice and your own way, you know, because it probably won't last if you just do the same thing over and over again. So eventually those bands will have to face the same challenges that every other band faces. How do you grow? How do you adapt? How do you stay current? You know, so, but if we're the spark that makes people creative, then that's got to be great, I would think.
Okay. Now some questions about the Industrial Complex album. Today is the official release date of the new Industrial Complex album. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
We have
So is ours.
So is ours. Our CDs, our latest CDs, the same. Pushback, I think. No. Anyway, Industrial Complex is your 6th official studio album already, and over the years, you guys had the chance to work with actually big names in the producing industry like Phil Harding, Alan Wilder, Flood. Do you actually have a favorite amongst them? And if so, why in particularly that producer?
Well, I mean, definitely the relationship we built with Flood was nurtured over years of working together and us growing as, not just as musicians, but growing as into young adults. You know, we were barely in our 20s when we first started working with Flood. So there's a lot of things that were going on in our lives that he helped us through, not just musically. So I think that there's a closeness that we attach to him above everyone else. I mean, probably with the exception of people like other people that are influential on our lives and our attitude to the music we've produced and continue to produce would be Daniel Miller.
Oh, I'm stunned to hear that. Nice. So, what actually is the real difference working with Flood today than around the Belief period, let's say? Because after all, Flood did work with Depeche Mode, U2, editors and stuff like that. So, how precisely did Flood get into the picture again?
He didn't.
Yeah, he didn't really. Actually, what happened was that we've stayed in contact with Flood over the years. So of course, when we started making Industrial Complex, he was interested. So I was emailing him songs, and initially he said, I really want to mix it. I'll mix it for free. I just really want to do it because he liked what was happening. But as ever with Flood, it was dependent on his schedule. And this was another part of why the album took quite a long time, because we'd finished it quite a long time before, and we were waiting for Flood, amongst other things, and it just never happened in the end. In the end he was just too busy. But what he did do was, as we were going, we would send him songs, send him CDs of the songs, and he would write notes of what he thought about them, and maybe certain advice on some of them. So in the end, he ended up being more as like an advisor. Same with Jags Cooner. Originally, Jags Cooner was going to come and produce. Very similar situation, like he would be virtually doing it for free. So, he had to fit it in between jobs that earn him a living. Yeah. And again, it got pushed back and back. In the end, we basically made the album by the time he was free to do something. So similar situation where we just every once in a while we play him things, get his advice, get his input. So we credited Flood and Jags as advisors on the record because their advice was valuable. I mean, we felt strongly about what we were doing, and we felt we knew what was good about it. But even just reinforcement where someone says, or for instance the track Promises, I remember thinking, alright, it's an old school type Nitzer Ebb song, but is it really up there with like Murderous, Let Your Body? Is it up on that level? And Flood just said, yeah, it is. Don't worry about it. Don't think too much about it. Just accept it.
He's right.
That's the good thing. That's the good thing with both Flood and Jags. That they're both really concise and straight to the point. But if it's there are certain tracks because we ended up writing a lot of extra tracks that didn't make it onto the album, and there are a couple that we were fairly gung-ho on putting there in the track listing, and Flood was just like, doesn't fit, doesn't belong there.
Oh.
And so you just kind of you when someone's telling you so concisely good things, a negative thing you have to take with the same appreciation.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, enough about DJ Card. DJ Card's a long time ago. Anyway, another producer, I'm sorry, Alan Wilder. There are some rumors going on that you're working together with Alan Wilder again.
There's a couple of things going on. Basically, over the course of last summer, we've been in touch again. We've always sort of stayed in touch with Alan on and off for various reasons, both personal and music related. And so there was, I met up with Alan in London, and he was asking about various people that could help him put together in more kind of super interesting places like Mexico City and other kind of global cities, put together some kind of Alan Wilder playback DJ appearance. So there was a couple of people I suggested to him, and we carried on talking about it with Petty, our agent, and put Alan in touch with Petty, and then Petty started putting together more of these events around Europe, and then it was discussed about Nitzer Ebb involvement in one of these nights, or vice versa, Alan's involvement in a Nitzer Ebb night, and so that's what's happening. It's a kind of evening of Recoil with Nitzer Ebb, or an evening of Nitzer Ebb with Recoil, depending which way you look at it.
Sounds cool. I want to be there for sure. Okay, when listening to Industrial Complex, us as real Ebb fans, it's nice to hear that Nitzer Ebb is back and without guitars. Striking for us is that in reviews you often read that the album is back to the roots. Personally, for us, the feeling we have with the album is that it goes back to the as-is Ebbhead period. A few moments and are going a little bit back to Showtime, but not really the things like the true Nitzer Ebb roots. Warsaw Ghetto, Violent Playground, Alarm. It seems to be miles away. Was it a deliberate choice, or just natural flow, or something else?
I think it's when we were going in to make the record, obviously you've got like over a decade of silence and then 5 very different records, so it'd be easy, you know, to get swamped by your own expectations. You know, there was a lot of expectation around it, and it'd be too easy to just overcomplicate it and try and do too much. So we decided the best thing to do was initially in the writing approach was how we went back to basics. You know, we just had one synth, a mallet controller, electronic drum kit and a microphone, which is similar to how we started. And just started writing the more simple stuff, like Once You Say, Payroll. You know, they started, even if they ended up a little more produced, they started from just one bass line, simple drums, driving, you know, not too complicated. You know, and I think it's a question of perception really, because to us there's tracks like, you know, like Promises, you know, that reminds us of Murderous, Let Your Body Line. It's a very linear bass line, you know, it's a very straightforward track. Of course it's modernised because, you know, we live in modern times, you know, or even songs like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, that doesn't to me seem so far from Alarm or something like that. There's a nod back, but you have to be careful that you're not just copying yourself. So it's like, you know, those kind of tracks were influenced by Total Asian Belief type era. And then once you've got the foundation, then obviously, you know, the production is going to sound a little more modern.
Okay, good. About the artwork of the album, actually, the Ebb artwork was always very strict and tight to the point, stood exactly for what the music was. And the current art and design of the album is very much bringing the back to basics feeling. The black, the white, red symbols. Was it a deliberate choice? Was Simon involved?
No, Simon wasn't involved, but it was. I mean, I've been doing all the artwork for Fix and McCarthy, and then you know, trained in graphic design, so it was an easy thing for me to take care of with the band, and we'd come up with the title Industrial Complex out of Barnett suggested that we look into the Eisenhower speech of the 50s, where he's talking about the military industrial complex taking over, and you know, that's what's to be wary of in a democratic society. So, you know, obviously it's all to do with the involvement of huge corporations in war, and what that actually pertains to in everyone's daily life is that you're paying taxes, or not as they may be, but you're paying taxes to your government, who are then using your money to employ private companies and corporations are making money out of it. It's obviously very much around a financial relationship as much as anything political. So, you know, you can't get any more obvious and basic than using the 4 most prominent global currency symbols.
At least now we know. Nice to know. Okido, the final question on Industrial Complex. Nitzer Ebb released 4 releases on the Power of Voice Communications way back. You then were signed to Mute Records.
Yep.
The obviously question now, why not returning back to Mute or Power of Voice Communications?
Power of Voice is probably wrapped up in some kind of legal backwater of complications. And we talked to Daniel when we first had some tracks, we went to see Dan in London.
And Daniel came to all the like as many reunion shows as he could. He was really present and supportive.
Yeah, and basically, even without talking to Daniel about it, we'd already come to the opinion that Mute as part of EMI Group was probably not as great a place for us to have a home as Mute completely independent. And that's not to say that Daniel wouldn't do his best to take care of us or any other bands that he's signing or signed, but it just felt different to us. And Daniel kind of, when we actually got around to talking about it, Daniel more or less said the same thing, that it just we'd be better off either doing it ourselves, which was his first suggestion, or going to small labels that have, only a few amount of bands, and they can really commit to what we're doing. And he also suggested, as a few other people have over the course of the last couple of years of the industry changing, that one of the things that makes a difference if you're not going to sign to a huge label and you're not going to put it out yourself or with partners, that you get into relationships with small labels in different countries, so that they know what they're doing in their own country. They have relationships with the avenues to get the music out. So there's a lot of reasons that are just the way the industry's ended up, and then some reasons of just personal approach, I guess, to what kind of company we want to be involved with.
Right. Okay, from Mute Records to remixes is a very small step. And Nitzer Ebb to the hardcore fan base stood always for chasing those limited editions, those vinyl CDs, promotional CDs, a variety of sound carriers from easy to hard to find, with tons and tons of remixes from Nitzer Ebb. Were there ever any remixes made for Nitzer Ebb where you decided, no way? So were there any mixes you felt were damaging the band's image?
That was more a question of timing. There were certain remixes that we heard that we we didn't approve them at the time they were done. But then, as time moved on, electronic music sort of became much bigger and much more diversified. You had all these different genres, everything else. And then Mute had the label Nova Mute, where there was kind of more esoteric or underground electronic releases in there. Some of them were brought up again and like, well, can we put it out on Nova Mute because it's more of an underground thing. So there were a few from back in the day that we didn't like at the time, and or felt weren't right at the time.
Yeah.
And then and some of them, while we were making them, like a lot of stuff we did with Phil Harding, it was a constant battle. We were always fighting him. In fact, we were like, one of the most popular remixes is the Join in the Chant mix that he did.
True.
We really fought him on that every step.
Disco percussion and stuff.
Yeah, well,
that's a great mix. The fans is a great mix.
She was absolutely right.
Yeah.
We hated it and
That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear that you guys hated it and the crowd just loves it. We know from as fans, we know that the Fun to Be Had mix is done by the Dust Brothers were banned, wasn't it? A 4-track 12-inch promotional on Geffen Records
right,
was deleted.
Yeah, probably.
There's a lot of funny things that went on towards the end of Geffen, because they were bought out by Universal, which was bought out by Matsushita, which was Japanese. So there was a lot of weird things tonight, and they were, the reason at that time that the Japanese manufacturers of cameras and TVs were buying out all these music companies is because they wanted to control everything, the delivery system and the content and the movies that the music's on. And so there was a lot of global reasons for things being done that were nothing to do with whether it was a particular track or not. It's just like that, Geffen just doesn't exist anymore as a case. This, it's an Auburn name. It's probably someone's external hard drive at an office in Universal.
Oh, Join in the Chant. Amazing. Okay, industrial complex will be holding a set of remixes as well this time. And we noticed that the version from Major Records, where you signed, is a double CD, and the version that will be released by Alpha Matrix for the Benelux and France is only a single CD. Now, is it a matter of a label policy, or did indeed this time Nitzer Ebb had a say on yes or no about these remixes?
Oh yeah, we were sent loads and loads of remixes and took a lot of time to listen to them all, you know, so it's like, you know, we approve various ones for various reasons, and I think remixes have become so diverse now. I mean, you know, it's almost anything goes, so, you know, it's kind of funny looking back at how particular we were back in the day about things, because, you know, I can't imagine us really being that pedantic about it now. It's just like, if that's someone's interpretation of it, then great, you know, that's fair enough. But there's a few that we're just like, okay, we don't like those as much as these ones, so let's use these first.
And then we just gave like a list of approved tracks to the record companies, to Major and to Alpha Matrix, and let them decide between themselves how they wanted to do it. When, as far as we're concerned, like Bob said, we're not as pedantic about it, and if we've approved it, put it out on your version of the album, or don't. You know, it's like, it's not the album, it's the bonus track.
It's the bonus, yeah.
How come you never made any remixes yourself? Never asked for, no interest?
No, I didn't have time really. I mean, it's just, you know, remixes of our own songs, you mean?
No, remix
for other bands.
Similar thing really, it's just, you know, time to fit it in. Like we did swap remixes with Alan in the summer and you know, things like that, but a lot of the time it's just so much going on between, you know, like once you've got taken care of the basic Nitzer Ebb business, you kind of have to take care of the other things in your life as well, and it's like, it's just, there's just never enough time really to fit it all in.
Okay, goody. Okay. Recently, another icon of the 80s, nothing to do with Nitzer Ebb directly, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. They did a one-time-off gig with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, doing 80 of their songs, 75 people orchestra. It always have been their dream to do that, and they released it on DVD. It's wowie, because I'm an OMD fan as well. But is there anything or something that you would like to do with Nitzer Ebb's music? An ultimate dream to come true for yourself? No acoustic set, please. No, something you haven't done with Neb and say, wow, this would be the ultimate dream for Nitzer Ebb to do.
I mean, it's, you know, we've been fortunate in our career that we've done a lot of things that we set out to do, and we've had a lot of surprises, you know, that we never thought that we'd had. You know, like the whole touring with Depeche Mode during Violator. I mean, you know, there really was no more perfect time and place for an electronic band to be out on the road than kind of during those times. And again, you know, coming back now, like the timing's almost perfect again. I don't think any of us really thought we would be back up there on a stage with them, you know, or, you know, various other people that we've met with and worked with along the way. I think we've covered a lot of things, and I think that was a big part of making the album as well. It's just that, like, there's a sort of comfort level or an acceptance level of what Nitzer Ebb is, what it does, what it should do for us and for other people. So it's I think that just leaves us free to really focus on creating good things for it, because we're just kind of, you know, anything from this point on is almost the garland on the achievement, you know. So and in a lot of ways that makes you a lot more relaxed and playful and inventive, because, you know, there's not that there's nothing left to prove maybe, but something like that. Like, we've done a lot of things that we're meant to do, and we've been recognised to some degree or another for it. So now it's just, you know, keeping up with that, having fun with it, and really maintaining the standard of it.
Okay, thank you. Now, a question about the Nitzer Ebb songs in general. You released a lot of tracks over the years, a lot. If you would have the possibility to turn back in time, which tracks would you never ever record again, and why would that be? Not the remix, is it? But the tracks. Oh shit, why?
We're not Johnny the Chant, we know that by now.
I mean, personally, it's like, you have to accept the good with the bad. It's like whatever songs you maybe aren't as comfortable with from your history, perhaps that came from lack of knowledge, lack of experience, lack of ability, what have you, but that's part of the same picture that made the other tracks good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it would, like, to be getting into that would really almost be like getting into self-loathing, and what's the point? It's like, yeah, we didn't do everything perfectly, but so what? You know, it's like there's good and bad, and you accept them all. You know?
Yeah, and is there actually, you know, if anything, that we see it fairly laconically and amusing that, you know, the tracks that we were doing for the basic pain procedure cassette, you know, we were in our early mid-teens, so of course there's going to be some fairly bizarre views of what you can get away with.
Well,
But that's amusing. And as Bond said, that we were fast learners, so you know we knew where our strengths were lying and went along with them.
Yeah, you certainly have an extensive and great career. And if allowed, we would like to finish off kind of relaxed up by saying, hey guys, you got a last final word to the world, blah 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 blah.
We're not going for that one.
No,
Yeah.
but by taking a small Nitzer Ebb quiz.
Right.
Yeah.
Aha.
I'm gonna ask 10 questions about tracks, releases, songs, and the first one to
answer gets a point.
also gets a point. I don't know who wins, what prize he gets, or who loses. That's up to you. Okay, there we
Just to
go.
go home.
Let's go on from the tour.
Something like that, yeah. Okay, first question. Name me the title of the B-side from the Shame 7-inch.
Oh, Jesus.
The remix was done by William Organ, Time Sleeps Vice, Hearts and Minds.
That's nice. Cheeky.
I'm a diehard, so I know.
Yeah, you've really got us up against the wall here, because we always go to fan sites for answers.
Yeah, we're not from a magazine, directly, so we're the fans, but no, the remix was done by William Orbit.
Yeah,
Hearts and
Yeah.
Minds.
great ones.
No?
No, it was Backlash.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
That's
a great
cool.
mix as well. Another William Orbit mix, right?
The original song is really
Yeah.
balls. Okay, second question. There once was a double 10-inch record released. Of which single was that?
What's that?
Ascend.
Ooh.
Bingo!
That's each
That's
one
each
point.
Yeah, we answered that in stereo.
Keep it safe, eh? Don't-
Yeah.
Okay, third question. A catalog number, Mute 71, contained a zero option mix. A single version of which track was that? A zero option mix. 71.
Got me down. Somewhere control.
Ooh.
Yeah, bingo.
Very
First single from
good.
the Just control number here.
2-1.
Cool. Okay. The title of the cover on the backside of I Give to You. The tip is rolling.
Stray Cat Blues.
Yeah.
Why that track? Why that one? That's the only cover version we ever recorded.
Yeah.
Why that
No,
one?
we needed to do. Daniel wanted an extra track, and we didn't really feel like we had any that we wanted to use from our own stuff, and so I think he suggested, or maybe it was suggested to do a cover version. We actually recorded that in Daniel's apartment in London. So we'd go in, we had like keys to his place, and we'd go there during the day.
Okay.
You know, he'd already left for work, and then he'd come home at work, and we'd play him what we did that day.
That's cool.
Nice. So that was a point for Bob.
Yeah.
Alright, the fifth one. The original song from Basic Pain Procedure that ever made it onto an official release.
KIA.
Nope.
But you're not losing points. I think.
No, it's on the Isn't It Funny How Your Body Works 12-inch.
That would be Crane.
You got it. I thought Bob, because the Basic Pain Procedure, oh wow, that's nice. It's great. It's the only song actually that made it from the Basic Pain Procedure. You're gonna love this one. Okay. One of the early slogans, International Funk Aggression, appeared on which sleeve?
Let your body learn.
Bingo. Whew. Who came up with those slogans actually? Like,
It'd be a mixture of us and Simon.
yeah, first control, then believe, then
Lots of good ones.
delicious.
Yeah.
Good of it. Okay, this is gonna be a fast one. Name the album on which the following track appears. Rope.
That
Believe.
no,
Okay, name the album on which the following track appears. Lakeside Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, nice one.
For that one.
You're not allowed to win anymore. Only
Okay, which track was the only one ever produced by Barry Adamson?
Oh
Higher
shit,
ground.
Higher.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one for today. Just continue. Join the rhythm.
Join the rhythm.
Of machine.
Feel the power.
Of my spleen.
That deserves a point, but it's while you learn, actually. Anyway, you guys all are winners. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was really fun.
That's good. Well done.
It's a complete quiz, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good idea.